The dog they handed her still had dried blood on his shoulder. That was the first thing Claire noticed. Not the scars, not the missing patch of fur above his left eye, not even the heavy limp in his back leg. Just the blood rust-colored, clinging stubborn to the greying fur like it still remembered. She stood there, frozen in the gravel lot behind the shelter, one hand on Ellie's stroller and the other holding a clipboard she had not finished signing. The air smelled like fall wet leaves and motor oil. Somewhere, a crow cawed. Ellie kicked her little feet, the Velcro on her pink sneakers flapping softly. "Are you sure?" the shelter worker asked. Her name tag read Dunham, volunteer since 2014. He has got a history on. He is not like the other dogs. Claire looked at the file again. Maxwell Belgian Malinois, 9 years old. Former key. Wounded in the line of duty. Retired early. Considered unsuitable for adoption. But Claire had already decided. "I will take him," she said quietly. "We both know what it is like to lose the job before you are ready." Dunham blinked. Claire did not elaborate. The drive back to Carroll County took 40 minutes. The trees lining Route 21 had turned amber and burnt orange, like old flames clinging to summer's goodbye. Claire glanced in the rearview mirror more often than usual. Max lay in the cargo space behind the back seat, tense but silent, his eyes never leaving the window. Not once did he whine, bark, or move toward Ellie. Claire could not decide if that was good or bad. Their house sat on the edge of Minerva, 2 blocks from the high school football field, a short walk to the Eager, and far enough from town that the porch light mattered on dark nights. It used to feel safer than it did now. Claire pushed open the front door and stepped aside. Max hesitated at the threshold. Then, slow as molasses, he walked in and did a full circle of the living room. He did not sniff the couch or the toys or the basket of clean laundry. He checked the windows, the corners, the hall, like he was clearing a perimeter. She thought. When he finally lay down by the front door, Ellie toddled over in her red corduroy overalls and placed her tiny hand on his side. Max did not move. He did not wag his tail. But he did not growl either. That was enough for now. That night, after Ellie went down, Claire sat alone at the kitchen table, sipping lukewarm tea and staring at the folded letter from her job. "We regret to inform you that your position as payroll administrator has been permanently dissolved due to budget reductions." 15 years. And just like that done, she pressed the mug to her lips but did not drink. From the front hallway, she heard Max breathe. Not snore. Breathe. Slow. Measured. Heavy. It was comforting in a way. In the weeks that followed, Max settled in like a soldier between missions. Always alert. Always still. He did not play fetch. Didn't he like belly rubs? Didn't he chase squirrels? But he would stand at the sliding door every evening at 6 p. watching the neighborhood boys ride their bikes past, tail barely twitching. And when Ellie cried, he would appear like smoke beside her crib, just watching. Sometimes Claire would find him in the hallway at 3 eyes open, listening to nothing. She wondered if he dreamed. One afternoon, Claire took Ellie and Max to the park near the old train depot. The leaves were coming down harder now, like confetti from a parade no one threw. Ellie clapped her hands at the ducks in the pond. Max sat by the bench, back straight, eyes on every passing stranger. A boy maybe 7 or 8 ran up with a soccer ball and froze when he saw the dog. "Is he a police dog?" the boy asked. Claire opened her mouth to answer but paused. Max turned his head toward her, like he wanted to know too. "Yes," she said finally. "He was." That night, as Claire gave Ellie her bath, she caught her daughter mumbling, "Boom boom doc. Max go b-" She blinked. "Sweetie." "What?" Ellie giggled and splashed the water. "Boom Max." Claire smiled, even though it twisted something in her gut. She did not know what Max had seen, or what he would done, but she knew. Later, she dug through the file again. This time she read slower. Injured during a hostage extraction in Cleveland, 2022. Suspect armed. Max advanced, took bullet to shoulder and jaw, saved 2 children, survived, retired. No handler claimed him after. No ceremony, just a checkmark. Claire stared at the last page. A photo, grainy and grey-toned, of Max lying beside a hospital bed, a child's hand resting on his head. She turned it over. No name, just 3 words scrawled in pen. "Still a good boy." That night, Max did not sleep in the hallway. He slept beside Ellie's crib. When Claire peeked in at midnight, she found them both sound asleep, one breathing soft and shallow, the other curled like a silent promise. She stood in the doorway for a long time, then went downstairs to make tea. But just as she reached the kitchen light switch, Max barked. Loud. Sudden. Then silence. Claire froze. She heard the sound again. A click. Metal. From the back door. She crept to the window. Her heart climbed into her throat. A man in a dark jacket stood in her backyard, staring at the house. He raised a hand, slowly pressed it to the glass, and smiled. Part 2. Echoes in the glass. Claire did not scream. She backed away from the window slowly, every muscle stiff like frozen rope. Her hand moved instinctively toward the countertop, where she kept her phone. But she did not take her eyes off the shadow on the glass. Max was already there. He stood at the sliding door, ears raised, body rigid, not barking this time, just watching. His breath steamed faintly in the cold air. It looked like he would been waiting for this, like he would seen this before. Then the man outside turned, not ran, not ducked, just turned and walked away through the leaves, vanishing into the trees behind the fence. Claire called the sheriff's office. They sent a deputy, young guy named Cody, who still had braces on his bottom teeth. He walked the backyard with a flashlight, made notes on a clipboard, and gave Claire a thin smile that did not reach his eyes. No sign of forced entry. Probably just a drifter. "Madam?" "Happens sometimes when the weather gets cold." Nothing stolen. Nothing broken. Claire folded her arms across her chest. He pressed his hand against the glass. "That is not just some hiker looking for shelter." Cody nodded politely, but did not argue. "Got cameras?" "Yes." "Review the footage. Let us know if you see anything useful." He left her with a business card and a plastic feeling of unease. By morning, Ellie was chasing cereal bits across her high-care tray with a spoon. Giggling, Claire did not eat. She reviewed the camera footage over black coffee and jittery nerves. Fast forward. Pause. Zoom. Rewind. At exactly 11:58, a man appeared in the backyard. Hood up, hands in jacket. He did not look at the door at first. He looked at the upstairs window. Ellie's room. Then the downstairs light flicked on. He stepped forward, put his hand on the glass, smiled. Claire swallowed hard. She almost shut the laptop until she noticed something in the corner of the frame. Movement? The dog had been standing by the door the whole time. Unmoving. Tense. But watching. Waiting. Claire called the shelter. Donna picked up after 3 rings. Did he ever react like that before? Claire asked. A pause. Then, Max was never the same after that last assignment. I heard his handler moved away. Did not want to see him. Said the dog reminded him of the worst night of his life. Claire's throat tightened. Do you remember anything about that night? The papers said 3 kids were inside. Max went in ahead of the team. Took a bullet. Saved the youngest one. But something happened, something they did not print. Rumor was, one of the suspects got away. Disappeared. Claire stayed off social media that day. She did not go into town. She kept Ellie close, and Max closer. That night, she moved a chair beneath the front doorknob, just in case. She fell asleep on the couch with Max at her feet. At 2:17, the sound came again, a single tap. Then another. Claire sat up fast, heart pounding. She grabbed the flashlight and tiptoed to the sliding door. Nothing. Then just barely she noticed. On the glass, a smear, like someone had wiped their finger through dust. And above it, scratched faintly with something sharp. I remember. The next day, Claire took Max to the vet. She had not meant to, but she needed answers. Needed someone to know him. Reynolds was an older man, heavyset, with hands that looked like they would fix tractors, as well as terriers. Well now, he said, kneeling beside Max. You have been through the ringer, have not you? He ran fingers gently along Max's shoulder blade. Then the side of his jaw. This scar here, clean entry wound. Military-grade weapon. And the jaw, that is from force. Something strong clamped down. Steel, maybe. Claire felt a chill. He has still got metal fragments under the skin. Reynolds added, You want me to remove them? Claire hesitated. Max looked up at her, calm. Resolved. She said, He has carried them this long. That night, as she folded laundry in Elias' room, the little girl looked up and said, Boom boom man outside. Claire dropped a sock. What? Ellie pointed to the window. Last night. Boom boom man looking. Claire's skin crawled. Did you tell anyone? Max said do not talk. Claire's heart twisted. That night, she did not sleep. At dawn, she drove to the old Verf Hall on Maple Street. The one where veterans met on Fridays for free coffee and black and white photos. Harris remembered Max. I was there in Cleveland, he said, nursing his second cup. Kid had a pipe bomb strapped to her chest. Max broke protocol. Ran in. Took the shot. Caught the guy in the hallway, tore half his arm off before backup came. But the other one... Yeah. He leaned forward. There was a second suspect. Never caught. And I will tell you something, he talked. Said he would get even with the mutt who ruined everything. Claire's hands trembled. Did he give a name? But the FB was involved. I doubt they will share details with a civilian. Claire drove home with the radio off. She pulled into the driveway to find Max pacing the porch. Tail stiff. Eyes locked on something across the street. A black sedan, parked beneath a broken streetlight. The windows were tinted. When she stepped out of the car, it drove away. That night, Claire sat at the kitchen table long after Ellie had gone to sleep. The house was still. Too still. Max lay by the front door, eyes closed but ears alert. Claire reached into the folder and pulled out the old photo again, the one with Max and the child's hand. She stared at it a long time, then flipped it over and wrote in small, trembling letters, "You are still a good boy." She left it beside Max's water bowl. Just before midnight, Max stood up. No sound. No bark. Just stood. Ears perked. Claire followed his gaze to the back hallway. One of the doors, usually locked, was open. The basement. She never left it open. Part 3. Below the floorboards. The door creaked open wider. A slow, hollow sound like the house was exhaling. Max stood at the top of the basement stairs. Body low, ears pinned back, he did not growl. Didn't he bark? But something in him had changed. He was not afraid. He was ready. Claire stepped forward, her bare feet brushing the edge of the top step. The wooden stairs below looked darker than usual, like the light bulb above had dimmed just enough to make her doubt herself. She reached for the light switch. It did not work. Max took a single step down, then another. Claire hesitated, then followed. The air down there was cold and still, the kind of cold that came from more than just temperature, a memory kind of cold. The basement was mostly unfinished cinder-block walls, exposed beams, and boxes stacked in the corners that had not been opened since Ellie was born. Claire had not come down here much in the past year. After her ex left, she told herself she did not need to see the junk he left behind. But now, she was not so sure what was junk and what might have been left here. Max moved slow and steady, nose working, body tight with focus. Claire stepped behind him, flashlight in hand. Something scraped. She stopped. It had come from behind the water heater. Claire edged closer, heart racing. She swept the flashlight beam across the concrete floor. There, just behind the heater, something shiny. A soda. A shell casing. Spent. She crouched and picked it up carefully, as if it might still be warm. It was not, but it was real. Why was it there? She turned to Max. He was still, head cocked to the side, staring at something behind her. Claire followed his gaze. The wall. There was a narrow wooden panel set oddly between two support beams. She would never noticed it before. It did not match the rest of the basement's structure. Too clean. Too new. Claire walked up to it and pressed her hand against the grain. It wobbled slightly. A hidden door. She pushed gently. It opened with a groan. Behind it darkness. Max growled. Claire's stomach clenched. Inside, lit only by her trembling flashlight, was a space no bigger than a closet. And on the floor, an old duffel bag. Claire pulled it out slowly. It was heavy. The zipper rusted. The leather handle cracked. She set it on a dusty workbench and unzipped it carefully. Inside, a handgun, cold and scratched. A burner phone, dead. But intact. A man's work gloves, stained with something dark. And at the very bottom, a folded newspaper clipping. She unfolded it. Her breath caught. K9 hero saves 2 in Cleveland standoff. And beneath that, 1 suspect remains at large. A photo showed Max years younger, jaw wired shut, sitting beside a weeping child. Claire's fingers trembled as she flipped the article over. Written in black marker. In large, jagged letters. Payback. She dropped the clipping and stepped back. Max pressed against her leg, warm and unmoving. Claire whispered, "He is not just watching us." Max's eyes did not leave the door. "He has been here." Claire called the sheriff's office again. This time, she did not settle for Deputy Cody. She asked for Detective Gregson. It took 2 hours for him to show up, and when he did not come alone. A second officer followed. Younger, quieter. Claire led them to the basement. Max stayed at the top of the stairs. Gregson crouched beside the bag and whistled low. "Well now, this just got interesting." Claire showed him the clipping. He nodded. "We always wondered if the guy had connections. Might be stashed supplies in places he thought were off the radar. This was my husband's grandmother's house," Claire said quietly. "He grew up here?" Gregson looked at her. "He ever mention anything about past ties?" She shook her head. "He left us when Ellie was 6 months old. Haven't he heard from him since?" Gregson did not press. He bagged the evidence and promised to alert federal authorities. Then he looked down at Max, who sat at attention. "Smart dog," he said. Claire did not answer. That night, Claire did not sleep. She pushed Ellie's crib into her room, locked every window, double-checked the basement door, and slid a chair under the knob. Max curled up beside her bed but did not sleep either. He stared at the window, watching, waiting. 3 nights passed without incident. Claire started to believe maybe the man was gone. Maybe finding the bag had scared him off. On the 4th night, Ellie had a fever. Claire rocked her through the hours, Max pacing the hallway like a silent metronome. By morning, Ellie was better. Claire, exhausted, dozed on the couch. She did not hear the car pull up, didn't see the shadow cross the front porch. Didn't hear the lockpick snap, but Max did. The sound of glass breaking woke her. Then Ellie's scream. Claire bolted upright. "Ellie!" She ran toward the hallway, socked feet slipping on the hardwood. Two men, one in the hallway holding Ellie, the other at the kitchen door. Gun raised. Max shot forward like lightning. Claire screamed. Gunfire. Part 4. What he was trained for. The gunshot cracked like thunder in a bottle. Claire dropped to the floor. Ears ringing. The sound echoing through every wall in the house. Somewhere, Ellie was still screaming a high, panicked cry, raw and desperate. Then another sound tore through the house. A snarl, not a bark, not a growl, a full-bodied, from the gut snarl that did not sound like it belonged to a house pet. It was Mac, and it was the sound of a dog who remembered exactly what he was trained for. Claire lifted her head just in time to see Max barrel into the man with the gun. The second intruder, the one holding Ellie, turned his back to the struggle, panic in his eyes, and bolted for the front door with Ellie in his arms. Claire screamed, scrambling to her feet, chasing after him down the hallway, but he was faster. By the time she reached the porch, he was already halfway across the yard, his boots thudding hard against the frozen ground. Ellie's little red pajama pants flapped in the wind as she writhed in his grip. Max! Claire cried out, but Max could not come. He was still inside, fighting for all three of them. In the kitchen, chaos raged. The first man was on the floor, his arm torn open. Gun skittered across the tile. Blood smeared the linoleum. Max stood over him, teeth bared, chest heaving, ready to lunge again. The man cursed, crawling backward. "It is that damn mutt." Max did not let him finish the sentence. He lunged again, locking onto the man's shoulder. A sickening crunch echoed through the kitchen. Outside, Claire chased the second intruder down the sidewalk. Barefoot, breath hitching in the cold air. The man turned left toward the alley behind Mess. Kinney's fence. Elias screams pierced the morning sky. Claire pushed herself harder, lungs burning. Then just ahead a flash of light. Headlights. A black sedan. Waiting. Claire skidded to a stop as the man yanked the back door open and shoved Ellie inside. She screamed louder. The car engine roared to life. Claire ran again, reached the door just as it slammed shut. "Please, take me instead." The man did not look back. The car peeled out, tires screeching across the wet pavement. Ellie's scream faded into the distance. Claire fell to her knees in the middle of the street, arms limp at her sides. Back in the house, Max finally released the intruder's arm and stood panting over the unconscious man. Then he turned and ran, blood dripping from his side. Leg trembling with every step, he limped down the hall, out the front door, and into the street. Claire looked up just in time to see him. He did not bark. Didn't he hesitate? He just ran after the car, nose low, feet pounding the pavement, faster than any wounded creature should be moved. Claire stumbled after him, crying his name, but he was gone. It took 12 minutes for the police to arrive. Neighbors had heard the gunshot. Someone saw the car. By then, Claire had already collapsed on her porch. Hands shaking, hair damp with sweat. She told them everything. the basement, the duffel bag, the article, the threats. Mac's attack, Ellie, and how she would watched her baby disappear into a car like it was a nightmare that would not end. Detective Gregson showed up again, this time with federal backup, dogs, radios, a helicopter on standby. They did not promise anything. They never promised, but they moved fast. Claire was taken to the hospital briefly, a stress-induced faint. Nothing broken, except everything inside. 3 hours passed. Then 4. By noon, they had the license plate. A rental, paid in cash. Nothing traced back. Claire sat in the back of a cruiser outside her house, fingers wrapped around a paper of coffee she did not drink. Across the street, Kinney wept into her husband's chest. The broken window had been taped over. There was still blood on the porch. At 1:46, a radio squawked in the patrol car. Unit confirms possible sighting off Route 43. Dog in pursuit. Repeat. Dog in pursuit. Claire's head snapped up. 2 officers pulled her from the car gently. You need to stay here, madam. But Claire shook her head. Take me. You can take. They did. They found the car 15 miles north. Crashed into a tree near a hunting trail. Driver's side door open. No sign of the men. And no sign of Ellie. Then one of the deputies shouted from the brush. I got something. Claire pushed past the officers. Heart slamming. There, beneath a fallen pine limb, Ellie, wrapped in Max's body, blood on his fur. Eyes open, unblinking, still, but alive. Ellie blinked. Mommy. Claire dropped to her knees, sobbing as she pulled Ellie into her arms. Max did not move. His side was torn, his breathing shallow, but he was alive. Barely. One of the deputies knelt down. Beside him. He must be followed the car. Waited for the right moment. Claire stroked Max's muzzle. He never gave up. The vet arrived 10 minutes later. Max was lifted gently onto a stretcher, sirens already starting in the distance. Claire leaned in close. Stay with me, she whispered. You did it. She is safe. Max closed his eyes, but his ear twitched. He heard her. At the emergency clinic, everything was a blur of white walls and red lights. Claire waited. And waited. And waited. Ellie was fine. No scratches. No bruises. Just scared. But Max? They would not say. Not yet. Hours passed. The sky turned orange. Claire sat with Ellie in her lap, staring at the door to the operating room. Then it opened. Reynolds stepped out. Face solemn. Hands clean. Claire stood, her knees trembling. Well, she whispered. He looked her in the eye and nodded. He made it through surgery. Claire broke. Tears fell before she could stop them. But Reynolds added, he is not out of the woods. That bullet did more than we thought. The next 24 hours. He did not finish. He did not have to. Claire understood. She was allowed to sit beside him. In the recovery room, the machines beeped quietly. Max's chest rose and fell barely, but it moved. Claire held his paw. Ella asleep in a chair nearby, red pajama pants still dusty from the woods. You did it? Claire whispered, her voice cracking. You brought her back. He did not open his eyes, but a tear slid from the corner of one, and Claire knew he heard her. Part 5. The dog everyone noticed. The next morning, the town of Minerva, Io, woke up different. People did not talk about Friday night football or coupons in the daily journal. They talked about a dog with scars on his jaw, a limp in his leg, and blood on his fur not his own. This time, the whispers started at the diner, where Donna from the shelter sat, stunned, with her hands wrapped tight around her coffee mug. They said he chased down a car. Can you believe that? 10 years old. Shot once already. And he ran them down. At the gas station, the cashier told a customer, you know that single mom with the little girl? The one with the dog? Yeah. That was her dog. Save the kid. Even at the church bake sale, Kinney dabbed her eyes and said, I saw him that morning. He looked me in the eye like he knew, like he was saying goodbye. And just like that, Max became more than a dog with a record. He became a story. At the hospital, Claire had not slept. Not really. She sat in the hard plastic chair beside Max's kennel, elbows on her knees, fingers tangled together in a silent prayer she could not quite form. Max lay still under the blanket, his chest rising faintly, and Eve dripped slowly beside him. Tubes ran along his side. He looked smaller, older, but he was still here. Every few hours, Claire leaned in and whispered, We are not done. You still have mornings left. You still have Ellie. Sometimes, his ear twitched. Sometimes. Nothing, but she did not stop. At noon, Claire stepped out into the hall for a stretch. When she returned, Ellie was there sitting cross-legged on the floor with a coloring book and a juice box. She would. Drawn Max. Big teeth. Big eyes. A red cape. The title above it. Super Max. Claire crouched down beside her. Sweetheart. What is that on his chest? Ellie smiled. That is his heart. Claire blinked. His heart? Yeah. Ellie said, Matter of fact, he has a big heart. Bigger than ours? That afternoon, Detective Gregson stopped by. He brought coffee and 2 donuts, 1 jelly-filled. 1 plain. Claire took the plain. I just wanted to say. He started. We got aim. Claire's breath caught. The men? Gregson nodded. Tracked them in a cabin outside Canton. They did not get far, and the prints in your basement matched the guy we suspected in the Cleveland standoff. The bag, the article. He left that as a message. She said nothing. I also wanted to tell you something else. Claire looked up. There is a fund, a recognition fund for retired service dogs. Not many people know about it. But after what Max did well, I made some calls. He handed her a paper. At the top, honoring the unseen heroes. Canine Recovery and Retirement Fund. Claire's eyes welled up. I do not need money. She whispered. It is not money, Gregson said gently. It is memory. This makes sure Max gets one. By evening, Max's vitals had improved just enough. Claire was allowed to gently stroke his fur. Sit closer. Speak softer. She told him about the town, how people were leaving notes at the shelter, how someone had tied a red bandana to the fence outside her home, how the sheriff's department wanted to award him a medal posthumous. They thought, she smiled sadly, they do not know you like I do. She whispered, you are not done. 2 days later, he opened his eyes, not all the way, but enough to see her. She froze, then smiled, mouth trembling. There you are. Max blinked. Claire leaned closer, gently resting her forehead to his. You rest now, she said. You have earned it. The day they brought Max home, the whole block came outside. Kids waved signs. One little boy held a cardboard shield and shouted, I want to be like Max when I grow up. Kinney stood on her porch with a fresh baked pie and tears on her cheeks. Even Dunner from the shelter drove up from town to see him. You were never broken, she whispered, as she knelt beside him. You were just waiting for the right home. Max did not bark. He just lay there on the blanket, head high, eyes soft. He did not need to say anything. He would done everything. At night, Claire sat on the porch with Ellie asleep in her arms and Max stretched beside her. The stars blinked over the trees. The wind smelled like hay and harvest. You know, she said softly, before you came, I thought we were just surviving, day to day, waiting for the next bill, the next shift, the next shoe to drop. Max blinked slowly. But now, she looked down at Ellie's sleeping face. Now we are living. Ellie stirred and murmured, boom boom dot. Claire smiled. That is right, baby. She whispered, boom boom guess still here. She reached down and rubbed the patch of grey fur behind Max's ear. Still here. Part 6. Bigger than a town. The news van pulled up on a Wednesday morning, just after the frost melted off the grass. Claire did not see it at first. She was helping Ellie put on her rain boots, one pink, one purple, because the matching set had long disappeared in the mess of that awful week. Then she heard the engine idle. Then the knock. Not at the door. At the gate. Max lifted his head from the porch. Didn't he growl? Didn't he move? Just watched. The reporter was young, polite, too polished for a town like Minerva. She introduced herself as Jennifer from Channel 8 Cleveland and held a notepad like it might protect her. We heard what your dog did, she said, blinking at the farmhouse and the peeling white paint. We think our viewers need to hear it too. Claire hesitated. I do not need attention. Jennifer nodded. I understand. But heroes do not always get to hide. Max padded down the steps, slow but steady. He still limped, but his gait had strength now. Ellie squealed. That is Max. The reporter knelt slightly, keeping her distance. May I pet him? Claire looked at Max. He did not break eye contact with the woman, but his tail thumped once. Claire gave a small nod. Just gently. And in that moment, something shifted. A story that had lived in a house was about to leave it. The segment aired Friday evening, just before dinner, just after the weather forecast. 3 minutes of raw, simple footage, no music, no dramatics. Claire speaking softly on the porch, Ellie holding her Super Max drawing, Max lying with his head on his paws, blinking into the camera like he knew what it all meant. By Saturday morning, the shelter's phone rang off the hook. Donations. Letters. One woman from Iowa wanted to send Max a hand-sewn quilt with his name stitched across the bottom. A retired vet from Georgia wrote a handwritten card. Reminds me of my buddy, except your Max lived to be thanked. Claire read every message. Some made her cry. Others made her laugh. All of them told her the same thing. Max was not just her dog anymore. By the end of the week, she got a call from Good Morning America, then a podcast, then a children's book author who wanted to write about loyalty. Claire said no to most. She was not chasing fame. She was protecting peace. But one message came that changed her mind. It was from a middle school in Pennsylvania. A teacher named Miss Adler wrote, "My students struggle with courage. They are afraid of being different, afraid of trying again. I told them about Max, about how he did not stop, and for the first time this semester, they listened." Claire looked at Max curled up beside Ellie, who was drawing again. This time she drew a school, and Max standing in front of it. "I think we will write them back," Claire said softly. 2 weeks passed. Fall deepened. Claire found herself in a rhythm. Again laundry, daycare, groceries. Bill still came. Life did not stop. But she had help now. Neighbors dropped off casseroles. The church women brought firewood. Even Gregson stopped by once a week with dog biscuits and updates. "Those guys won't be getting out any time soon," he said one evening, sipping coffee on her porch. Max rested by the step. Gregson leaned forward. "You know, there is talk of a state award." "For Valor?" Claire raised an eyebrow. "For dog?" He grinned. "For hero?" Max did not care for medals. He did not care for news vans or long speeches or Facebook posts with 1 million likes. He only cared for the sound of Elias' laugh, the slow walks to the edge of the field, the soft way Claire called his name when she wanted to sit together a while. He was growing older, and they all knew it, but he had more days. Good days. Then came the letter. It arrived in a manila envelope, no return address. Claire opened it slowly, standing in the kitchen while water boiled for tea. Inside was a photo, black and white, grainy. A child small, no more than 6, sitting on a hospital bed, and beside her, a younger Max. His jaw was bandaged, his eyes tired, but unmistakable. The back of the photo had 2 words scrawled in uneven handwriting. "You saved me." That night, Claire framed it, set it on the mantel next to the drawing Ellie had made. She did not know who the child was. Didn't he know who sent it? But she knew what it meant. Max had started saving lives long before he walked into hers. A week later, at the grocery store, a boy with braces and nervous eyes came up to her in the cereal aisle. "You are the lady with the dog, right?" Claire turned. Surprised. "Yes." He held out a folded piece of paper. "I wrote a poem for Max. It is kinda bad, but I wanted you to have it." Claire unfolded it slowly, in careful, shaky handwriting. He did not need words. He did not need cheers. He just showed up and fought through his fears. Claire wiped her cheek before the boy could see. "It is not bad," she said. "It is perfect." That night, after Ellie had gone to bed, Claire sat with Max on the porch again. The stars were sharper, the air crisper. She leaned back in the rocking chair and let silence fill the space between heartbeats. "You know," she said softly, "there are kids out there talking about you, drawing you, writing poems." Max did not move, but his eyes were open. "They are braver because of you." She smiled. "I am braver because of you." The wind shifted. A leaf landed on his paw. He did not brush it away. Claire reached down and covered it with her hand. In the distance, a train horn echoed across the fields. She remembered how, once upon a time, she thought rescue came in the form of a person, a man, a marriage, a promise, but instead it came on 4 legs, covered in scars, silent and strong. Max had saved Ellie, but in truth, he would saved all of them. Part 7. The battle we don't win. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of grey, unremarkable day no one remembers until they have to. Claire had just come in from hanging laundry. The sheets danced in the wind behind her, white sails against a restless Ohio sky. Ellie was on the floor by the window, lining up her wooden animals like she always did, tigers beside cows, penguins next to dinosaurs. Max lay beside her, head resting on his front paws, watching like he always did. And then, he did not. No bark, no twitch, just a sound, a soft exhale. Then stillness. Claire dropped the basket. It hit the floor with a thud, socks and towels spilling like some meaningless mess. She rushed forward, heart already screaming before her voice could. He did not lift his head. Didn't he blink? Claire fell to her knees. She touched his side. It was warm, but he was not moving. The vet said it could be anything. A delayed trauma, an internal bleed. Maybe the old injury from the bullet had weakened something inside, and time just ran out. They loaded him into the back of Claire's car. Ellie cried the whole drive. Not loud, just a soft, broken wail from the back seat that made Claire want to crash the car into the trees and let the pain win. But she did not. She drove. At the clinic, the world moved in sterile whispers. They rushed Max to the back, hooked up machines, needles, fluids, oxygen. Claire sat on the bench in the waiting room, holding Ellie in her lap, her eyes locked on the swinging door. It did not swing back for a long time. When it did, Reynolds stepped through. He looked older than usual. He sat beside her. "Claire," her hands trembled. "He is still with us, Reynolds said gently. But just barely. Claire's breath caught. Is he suffering? Reynolds hesitated. Not yet, but he is tired. His heart is working too hard. His lungs are not holding like they should. Claire nodded slowly. She knew what came next. She just was not ready. That night, they let Max stay. One more night under soft blankets, surrounded by quiet beeping and familiar voices. Claire read to him. Not loud. Just soft, like bedtime stories. The same book Ellie loved, Goodnight Moon. The old pages were worn, the corners bent. Max's eyes did not open, but his chest rose, and fell, and rose. Claire stayed until morning. At sunrise, the vet called her into the room. Alone. Claire stepped inside. Max was lying on the pad, eyes barely open. But he saw her. He saw her. She knelt beside him, stroked his head. I do not want to do this, she whispered. His eyes did not flinch. They did not fear. They understood. She laid her hand over his paw. You brought her back. You kept your promise. A slow blink. Claire's voice broke. You do not have to stay any more. Reynolds entered. The syringe was small, silent. Claire nodded and held on. It took less than a minute. Claire felt it when his body relaxed, not in pain, not afraid. Just peace. Like the job was done. Like the fight was finally over. She stayed long after the vet left. Didn't cry at first. Just sat and let the silence grow. Ellie did not understand at first. Is Max going to come home later? Claire crouched in front of her. Sweetheart, did he run away? He did not run away. Then where is he? Claire took a shaky breath. He went where brave dogs go when their job is done. Ellie looked at her hands. Then, whispered, he forgot his cape. Claire's heart shattered. The funeral was small. Just Claire, Ellie, Gregson, Donna from the shelter, and a handful of neighbors. They laid Max to rest under the old oak tree at the edge of the property. Claire wrapped his favorite blanket around him. Ellie placed her Super Max drawing on top. Donna read a few words. Gregson brought a plaque. It simply read, Max loyal to the end. No speeches. No trumpets. Just the wind through the branches, and a little girl whispering, Thank you, boom boom doc. Afterward, Claire sat on the porch, hands wrapped around a mug of tea gone cold. She stared at the spot in the yard where the earth had been turned. She thought about all the quiet things Max had done, the way he stood guard without being asked, the way he followed without needing to be called, the way he listened to her pain even when she never spoke it. And she cried. For him, for what he gave, for what he never asked for in return. That night, the porch light flickered. Claire stepped outside, wrapped in a sweater too thin for the cold. She stared into the dark yard. I miss you, she whispered. I miss you so much. I do not know how to breathe. The wind rustled the trees. She felt nothing, heard nothing. Then, a shape just for a moment, by the old oak. A shadow. 4 legs. A tail. Then gone. Claire stood still. She did not run toward it. Didn't he shout? She just smiled. Not big. Just enough. And whispered, "Good boy." Part 8. The letter he left behind. The days after Max passed blurred like watercolors left out in the rain. Claire still made breakfast, still folded laundry, still clipped coupons and checked the mailbox. But everything was quieter. The hallway where Max used to wait after Ellie's bath. The porch where his tail used to thump twice when she stepped outside with tea. Even the kitchen floor felt emptier, like it missed the soft sound of his paws. Grief was not loud. It was space. It was noticing everything that was no longer there. One afternoon, about a week after the funeral, Claire opened the mailbox expecting bills. Instead, she found a thick, weathered envelope. No return address, just her name. Claire Whitman. Minerva. EO. The handwriting was firm, neat, masculine. Inside was a single letter, typed, folded 3 times. No date. Just the salutation to the woman who gave Max his final mission. Claire sat at the kitchen table, heart already racing, and began to read. "You do not know me, but I know Max. I knew him when his name was still Sergeant. Before the scars, before the limp, before the world stopped seeing him as anything but broken. He saved my daughter." Cleveland, 2022. Maybe you read the reports. Maybe you did not. But I saw the moment that dog made a decision. A child had a bomb strapped to her. There were men with guns. Confusion. Screaming. Max did not wait. He moved. Took a bullet to the jaw. Tore a man to the ground. Shielded my girl until I could pull her free. Then he lay down, as if he knew it was over, as if he would given enough. I asked to keep him. The department said no, said he was unstable, unfit for home life. I tried to visit him. Once, he would not come near me. He would already started mourning. I did not know where he went after that. Not until the story broke about your daughter. I saw the photo. Older. Still fierce. Still loyal. Still saving children. I cried that night. I cried because the world forgot him. And you did not. Claire paused, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Her hand trembled as she turned the page. I wanted to reach out, but I did not want to take anything away from what you gave him. You gave him purpose. You gave him home. You gave him peace. So this letter is not to ask for him back. This letter is to say thank you for being his final post, for letting him be who he was, for not asking him to fetch balls or pose for Christmas cards when what he needed was to guard. You let him stay a soldier, but you also let him be family. That is more than I ever gave him. And because of you he did not die forgotten. He died loved. At the bottom, a name. Ethan Colohan. Sergeant. Retired. Army. Cleveland. Claire sat still for a long time. Then she folded the letter carefully and placed it beside Max S. framed photo on the mantel. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Somehow, she felt Max already knew. Later that evening, she took Ellie out back. The sun was sinking behind the tree line. Gold spilled across the lawn, the kind of warm light Max used to lie in until his coat glowed like copper. They sat by his grave. The dirt had settled now. A small wooden sign still marked the place, loyal to the end. Ellie brought her drawing pad. "I am going to draw Max with wings," she said seriously. Claire smiled. "I think he would like that." Ellie started with the ears. "Mommy?" "Yes." "Sweetheart, did Max have a mommy?" Claire paused. "I think maybe he had someone who cared a lot, but maybe they did not know how to show it." Ellie nodded like that made perfect sense. "I am glad he picked us." Claire stared at the tree line. So, the next morning, she wrote back. Not to the address, it was not listed, but to the man, to the soul. She sat on the porch with coffee in hand and wrote on thick paper, with her best pen, "Dear Sergeant Colohan." He never stopped guarding, not even on his last day. He watched my daughter like she was his only mission left on this earth. And when the danger came, he did not hesitate. I used to think I saved him when I signed those adoption papers. But the truth is, he saved me. I hope your daughter still remembers him. Mine always will. With deepest thanks, Claire Whitman. Minerva. She left the letter on the porch railing, just in case the wind wanted to carry it. That afternoon, she opened the shed for the first time in months. Inside were old leashes, toys, a faded crate, and a second food bowl. Still polished. Still clean. Claire picked it up, turned it in her hands, then placed it in the box marked keep. Some things were not just belongings. Some things were part of the story. That evening, Ellie ran to the porch with a handful of yellow daisies. She dropped them beside Max's grave. Claire watched from the steps. "Why those?" she asked. Ellie grinned. "Because they are brave flowers. They grow even when it is cold." Claire felt something bloom in her chest. Grief would stay, but so would this. Later that night, she sat down at her computer and opened a blank document. At the top, she typed, "The dog who watched over us." Then she paused, looked at the empty space, and began to fill it with memory, with truth, with love. Part 9. A new step on old ground. Winter had nearly passed before Claire set foot in the shelter again. She had not planned it. She and Ellie had been driving back from the library, Ellie clutching a favorite picture book of Max, the one with the crayon wings, when a flat tire pulled them onto the shoulder, just 2 blocks from the shelter. While they waited for help, Claire looked across the street. The old brick building, the faded sign, and behind the chain link fence, a row of kennels she had not seen in months. She did not think. She just said, "Let us go see Donna." Donna had not changed much. Same flannel vest, same thick glasses on a string. Her hug was tight and quiet. "We think about you every day," she said softly. "About him." Claire nodded, blinking against the warmth rising behind her eyes. "I was not sure I could come back." You do not have to explain. He was different. Claire smiled. He was not a pet. He was family. Donna leaned closer. You know something strange. After Max passed, we started getting letters, cards, people dropping off treats with no dog to claim them. Claire raised her brows. Someone sent a box of tennis balls labeled for the next brave one. Claire laughed, the sound catching in her throat. Ellie tugged her coat sleeve. Mommy, can we see the dogs? Claire hesitated, then nodded. Just for a minute. The kennels were mostly quiet that afternoon. Some dogs barked, others just watched. Claire walked slowly, Ellie beside her holding tight to her mitten. Third kennel from the end. That is where they saw him. He was not large, not like Matt, a medium mutt, part shepherd, part something else. Short coat, pale brown eyes, scar above one eye like an old memory that never faded. He did not bark. Did T. Flinch. Just sat and looked straight at Ellie. She tilted her head. He looks like he knows a secret. Claire knelt. He does. Ellie nodded. He is waiting. Donna joined them. That one's new. Came in 2 weeks ago. Found by the old train tracks. No chip. No name. Claire looked at the kennel card. Just a number. #437. He is. She murmured. Donna nodded. Doesn't he eat much? Doesn't he play? But every night, he stares at the gate, like he is watching for something. Ellie pressed her hand to the glass. He is not barking. She whispered. He is listening. Claire watched them, felt something stir in her chest. It was not the same, would never be the same, but it was not nothing. Either. On the ride home, Ellie turned in her seat. Can we bring him home? Claire kept her eyes on the road. We just went to say hi, honey. But he looked at me. Ellie said, serious now, like Max looked. Remember. Claire swallowed. She did remember. She remembered the first time Ellie toddled toward Max, tiny fingers reaching, and how he had not moved. Hadn't he growled? Just watched. The same way #437 had watched today. Claire did not answer. Not yet. That night, she sat on the porch wrapped in Mac's soiled blanket. The air was cold and damp. The stars were soft above the trees. Claire reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded drawing. Ellie's newest one. A dog with brown eyes and a question mark above his head. Beneath it, in big wobbly letters, maybe. Claire smiled and whispered to the wind. What do you think? No sound came, but the porch light flickered once. They brought him home 2 days later. Donna cried when she signed the release papers. He is not Max, she said gently. Claire nodded. He does not have to be. They let Ellie name him. She thought for a long time, then said, Rusty, 'cause he has got rust eyes. Claire smiled. It fit. Rusty did not fill the house the way Max had. He did not patrol, Didn't he follow Claire from room to room? Didn't he sleep beside the door? But he waited. Waited at the bottom of the stairs in the morning. Waited by Ellie's high chair when she dropped her cereal. Waited on the porch when Claire sat down with her tea. As if he knew his place was after. Not instead. One morning, Claire went to the closet to get Mac's old leash. She paused, held it a moment, then set it back down. Rusty had his own now. Red nylon. Simple. Strong. They walked to the old oak tree. Rusty did not tug or sniff. He just followed. At Mac's grave, Ellie knelt and laid down a small dog biscuit. "I told him about you," she whispered. Rusty sat beside her. Didn't he move? Didn't he sniff the ground? Just watched. Claire stood behind them, arms crossed against the wind, and for the first time since fall, she felt something settle in her chest. Not an end, not a beginning, just continuing. That night, Claire wrote in her journal. She had not touched it since the letter from Sergeant Colohan. She wrote slowly, carefully, the pen warm in her hand. He is not Max. He does not try to be. He is just here. And somehow, that is enough. Grief did not leave, but it made room. Maybe love works like that. Maybe hearts stretch. Maybe loyalty leaves a blueprint. She paused, looked over at Rusty sleeping near Elia's bed, and added one last line. Maybe the bravest thing a dog can do is show up after the storm. Part 10. One final gift. The package arrived in early spring. A small cardboard box, wrapped in brown paper, taped at the corners like someone had taken their time. No name on the front, just Claire's address, written in block letters, with a slight rightward slant. Claire nearly left it on the porch. She was not expecting anything. No birthdays, no online orders, but something about the handwriting made her pause. Inside, packed in old newspaper, was a wooden frame, and within it, a medal, round, bronze, with a faded ribbon folded carefully behind it. The inscription read, "For bravery and service, K9 Unit 7. Claire sat down, hard. At the bottom of the box was a letter, typed. Brief? He earned this long ago. They never gave it to him, but we all knew. Now it belongs to you. No name, just a typed line at the bottom. Someone who served beside him. Claire pressed her fingers to the cool metal. She thought of Max as he was that final morning still, silent, but never alone. And now, he would not be forgotten. She hung the medal above the mantel, right beside Elias' drawing of Max with wings. For weeks, neighbors stopped by to see it. Donna brought cookies and wept quietly in the kitchen. Gregson came by with a nod and said only, "Took them long enough." Even Rusty sat beneath it now and then, his eyes lifting toward the shiny disc like he understood something about legacy. But the real surprise came on a Thursday afternoon. Claire was going through old boxes in the attic tax papers. Baby clothes. That ridiculous bread machine she used twice. She found the file from the shelter. Max intake documents. His injury report. And at the very bottom, a small white envelope, sealed but never opened. Her name was not on it, but someone had scribbled in the corner, "If someone ever loves him again." She sat on the dusty floor and opened it. Inside was a single photo. A young Max, muzzle unscarred, eyes wide and alert, standing beside a little boy in a wheelchair, maybe 8 or 9. They were outside, a field of yellow behind them, the boy's hand resting gently on Max's head. On the back of the photo, in blue ink, "He got me through the hard parts." Claire did not know who the boy was. Didn't he need to? She would known the dog. That was enough. That night, Claire tucked Ellie into bed. Rusty curled up at the foot like always. Claire leaned in and whispered, "You know, Max helped a lot of people before us." Ellie blinked sleepily. "More than me?" Claire smiled. "You were his last. That made you the most important." Ellie nodded as if she would known that all along. Then asked, "Do you think he sees us now?" Claire sat on the edge of the bed, brushing Ellie's hair back. "I do. Even Rusty." "Especially Rusty." Ellie closed her eyes. "Then I am not scared when it gets dark." Claire kissed her forehead. "You never have to be." Outside, the porch light flickered once, then again, and stayed on. In May, the town of Minerva held a small ceremony. Nothing fancy, just folding chairs, paper programs, and a wooden bench placed under the oak tree. The plaque was simple, in honor of Max, K9 veteran, protector, friend. Claire spoke, but only briefly. She held Ellie's hand the whole time. "There are some dogs," she said softly, "who are born to fetch. Some are born to herd. Some are born to play. And then there are the ones born to protect. Max was one of those, but he did more than guard our home. He reminded us how much love a quiet life can carry." A breeze passed through. "The crowd," Rusty barked once, as if on cue. Laughter rose. Some tears too. It felt right. That evening, the three of them walked home together. Claire, Ellie, and Rusty, wagging his tail in the low golden light. As they reached the gate, Ellie stopped. "Can we say hi to Max?" Claire smiled. Of course. They walked to the grave under the tree. The grass had filled in now. The dirt had settled, but the small stone still stood clear. Still a good boy. Ellie placed a dandelion beside it. "Brought you something yellow." Rusty sat beside her. "Didn't he sniff? Didn't he move?" Just watched. Claire watched them both, her heart full, and not just of grief, but of gratitude, of memory, of continuing. That night, Claire lit a candle on the porch. She sat alone, Rusty at her feet. She took out the letter from the soldier, the photo from the attic, the medal, and the note that had come with it. She laid them all in front of her, then said quietly, "Thank you. Not for the first time. Not for the last." But with the kind of voice that meant it now, in every part of her being. She did not expect a sign. Didn't he ask for one? But just as she blew out the candle, she looked toward the edge of the trees. And for one brief moment so fast she almost dotted it. She saw him. Standing still. Head high. Eyes clear. Then gone. Like he would never left. Like he would always be here. Watching. Waiting. Guarding. End of part 10 final. A Maxa story lives on not in medals, not in memories alone, but in every quiet moment of love that does not ask to be seen.